Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network. I get the privilege of working alongside all of our creators at Enrollify, but I wanted to take just a quick moment to tell you about why I love the Talking Tactics podcast hosted by Diana Kibbolds. Every other Tuesday, Day drops a new episode where she focuses on a single tactic that moved the needle on any enrollment metric, from inquiries and booth visitors to apps completed and deposits, even registrations, you name it. The catch? The tactic had to be done with limited resources, either by a single person or a small but mighty team, or limited time, or maybe without a lot of money. The podcast format is fun and engaging, and it's just different from the more traditional 60-minute interview style shows. If you work in enrollment management or marketing, be sure to give Day's show a listen. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Talking Tactics wherever you get your podcasts.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of EdTech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome back to the Pulse, everyone. This is Mallory, and I have Seth Odell with me, but not through a computer screen this time. I am literally standing next to Seth live at the ASU+GSV Summit. Seth, we just got to hug each other. This is incredible.
First, it's awesome to see you. We are literally feet away. We're feet away, surrounded by 10,000 people. If anyone's not been to this conference before, it is the most chaotic experience ever. It is floor after floor after floor. People everywhere. It's awesome. It's got a great energy, but it's also exhausting. And so glad we found a corner to steal away to catch up for a minute. I don't know about you. I have a lot to talk about.
Literally standing in a corner at the conference. That is what we're doing.
You're absolutely
And the whole, if you listen to our intro as you lead it to the Pulse, the whole purpose of this show was to be two friends catching up like you would at a conference. I mean, we are living our dreams right here.
Yeah.
So Seth, where should we start? Because I've been at the air show all weekend. You're just arriving for the summit today. And I know you have already had some really interesting one-on-one conversations with all sorts of people, but I have no idea who you've talked to or what you've talked about. So catch me up.
Absolutely. So I got probably 4 or 5 takeaways. I'll share the first one I would share is that we talk a lot about innovation in education, but behind innovation is investment. A lot of innovation is happening outside of the college and university structure, which means private companies that are invested in by primarily venture capital or private equity. One of the very interesting conversations I had this morning was how much venture capital money right now is really tied up and trapped, that a lot of venture capital money was deployed 4 or 5 years ago at a point when the market was really high. And now we're at a place where, in theory, they're supposed to be returning that investment in the next 3 years, 4 years, and the market has declined to the point that they can't get the valuations they need to even recoup that initial investment. And so there's people at this conference right now that have capital to invest in interesting innovation, but there's also a lot of people here who feel sort of trapped and that they have funds where they're not going to be able to necessarily get their investment out. And the conversation I had this morning is it may be far more bleak than anyone is willing to admit. And we may find a lot of people struggling and a lot of companies struggling in the next few years. And so at least this morning, there was a little bit of a bleak, cloudy undertone to the usual excitement at this conference, at least among a subset of the people that I chatted with.
So we've got a situation where people feel like their valuations aren't growing as quickly as they want. There's got to be some solutions here. And I know you're an ideas guy. You've always been my favorite ideas guy. So what's your idea?
So I think there's a couple things. The first one I would say is that there's still plenty of room for people to win. And so what's not clear is who are the winners going to be. In particular, I think at this conference this year, it's all about AI, especially with the AIR show that they had, the AI Revolutions, the first year they did that. Still think people are waiting to see who are the ones who are going to break out and win. I think the other thing we're going to see is new funds created. And I heard those conversations this morning about, do we go out and raise a new fund? Because, candidly, the old fund's not going to return. And so it's not like investment's not going to come to the space, but I just think it's going to be a shakeup. And the shakeup will be that a lot of the folks currently active in the space may not survive and thrive, while others are going to break out and still be winners. So I think there's still this hesitancy to see who can break out, and everybody's trying. And so to me, it's not a time to take your foot off the gas. But if you're at this conference, you are a service provider, a software provider, let's hope that you're impressing people, and let's hope that there's some buzz around you, because it's not that different than anyone who's been to South by Southwest, that there's always the tech companies that come out hot each year. I think that's the question, is that if you're here this year, you got to come out hot, and you got 2 more days to do it, and make sure that the buzz is all about you.
Yeah, as I've been walking around the air show floor, it seems like there is still a pretty big range when it comes to companies who say they have AI integrated, and then companies who actually have AI integrated in really meaningful and responsible ways. So it'll be interesting. Actually, this reminds me of the conversation I had with your colleague, Chris, at this show, because we really landed on this, there's a point to having something meaningful. And in 2024, it's going to become very clear very quickly, the companies that do and the companies that don't.
I totally agree. And I think your point on thinking about ethical implementations of technology is really key. And I think it's important to call out, because at a conference like this, we have the technology developers and providers, but we also have the folks that are actually the users, which by and large are working at traditional colleges and universities. And so even just this morning, I had a very interesting conversation about the role of AI in instructional design content development. And I was telling someone about how, Mallory, you and I cloned our voices with 11 Labs, I think it was called. And I said, why aren't you cloning your faculty voices so that way you can build new instructional content without putting the burden on the faculty? And they first were blown away, and were taking notes about it. But the second thing that they said is, I'm not sure that the faculty will want that there may be faculty who are so threatened by that. So there was still this conversation now of if you are producing content, are you AI free? And that's your pitch, which is, don't worry, we don't use AI? Or is it, we are AI enabled and we're leading the pack, and that's your pitch? And I don't know where the market is right now. And it seems like there's still a nervousness and apprehension that there may be a portion of the folks that, even at this conference, are coming here, who don't want their own voices cloned for content, who don't want AI to be generating course content, when personally I think the conversation has to be, how do we produce the highest quality outcomes, and what is required to do that? Whether it's cloned voices or real voices, we should be doing whatever works best and not kind of cutting off our options early. But that was a really interesting conversation about AI's role in instructional design, and whether or not faculty are going to love it or they're going to hate it.
All right, so get ready for this. Yesterday, I talked to 2 students. They are sophomores in college, and they have a business where they're building on 11 Labs technology. They were inspired by Money Heist and the 4 dubbing that was happening. And the voice actors they were noticing were the wrong ages, or sometimes even genders, and that the lips, when it's coming out in English, was not matching, right? The original, right? So this sparked them a year ago down this path. Again, sophomores in college, sparked them down this path to say, there is a role for AI here, and we can build a company that will allow anybody to use the technology to translate video content from one language to another. Wow. Clone the AI voice so it sounds like the original, say, faculty member who was teaching the class, and adjust the lips in the process to actually make it look like, they're speaking in Spanish or French or whatever the language is. They didn't get into how faculty actually feel about it, though. But they, of course, said they've got a handful of institutions who are already using their technology. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's super cool. It reminds me, I'm a big fan of Mr. Beast, I think as are a lot of folks. He built out a whole dubbing business line where he was dubbing YouTube videos in different languages. But one of the pieces to me that highlighted was that increasingly content is global. And if language is the restriction to bringing it global, that doesn't need to be the burden. And so I just think that they're solving a really interesting problem. I believe more broadly, there's a coming globalization in education. I had that conversation actually this morning. So there's a lot happening at this conference about, when is MIT going to say we want to be the world's leading educator and engineers, not just domestically? And so I do think as we all increasingly look at the globalization of education, that's a really great solution. That's really cool that somebody's out there building that.
It's only 11:30 for the record, y'all. This episode's going to drop a week after we record it, but it is 11:30 on a Monday morning, and all of these conversations, Seth, have already happened already. Let's talk about one more. Who else have you talked to?
I'll tell you, my final takeaway is the big headline is some things never change. And there's two ways I cover that. One is that people are still leaving roles and looking to leave roles. I've had 3 conversations with people today that are thinking about leaving where they are. I'm going to a luncheon tomorrow with SNU President Paul LeBlanc, who's a friend of mine, who's obviously retiring, stepping down. Like, there's a lot of movement happening, and that happens every year. So that doesn't change. Is that the players change. Either change teams or they step out of the game. And the second one is that marketing still matters. I was talking to some really great providers of a college access. I'm sort of like help you get access to colleges. That model, they still need help with marketing. And so I've had multiple conversations where even when you have a product solution that works, it doesn't mean that you can market it at a cost-effective level. And so some things don't change. The players are going to change every year, and marketing still matters. And so for me as the marketer, at least it's reassuring that maybe even in all of this disruption that I am surrounded by today, there's still a little bit of job security, which is that even if you have a great piece of technology, someone's still got to sell it. It still has to work and be deployed. And so some of those fundamentals, the people and the promotion, never really change.
Seth, I think I'm going to fly out to San Diego every week to record these moving forward because it is such a treat getting to literally stand next to you and have these conversations. I think I'll rack up a lot of airline miles.
Let's do it. I'm on board. You can come anytime.
And with that, folks, we're going to wrap this episode up. We've been live at the ASU+GSV Summit. You can look forward to Seth and I getting back to our regularly scheduled programming after this episode. But Seth, it was so good to see you. And, we got to have dinner the other night and our spouses were with us. It was just like a treat getting to catch up. Seriously, I'm coming out every week.
I love it. Seeing you reminds me that the thing I love the most about this industry is the people. There's so many great friendships here. I love seeing you, and I hope we can see each other more often. Remote is great, and virtual is great for the podcast, but yeah, it's been a blast.
Thanks, everyone.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.